Good evening, everyone, or good day. Welcome to today's office hours. I believe everyone can hear me. Okay, so let's just wait for more people to join. Today's class is just for an hour, and I reckon it will be very short. I don't think I have much to cover today. Okay, um okay, so we'll start by 5:05. So let's see if more people will join and we'll start. So I believe we can start now. Hello everyone, welcome to today's office hours. And as usual, we'll be covering Python and I'll be taking your questions. So like I said earlier, we don't have much to cover. I think I've pretty much covered everything we needed to cover for this week. I've talked about classes, I've talked about objects, I've talked about inheritance and um, the four components of object-oriented programming. I've also talked about class variables and instance variables. So we've covered quite a lot this week. If you are lost, you can always watch the office hours again. It should be on the YouTube channel. So I'll just be taking questions if you have any. So please, if you have any question, just put it in the comment section and I would get through it. So is there anybody that would like to ask any question? So if you don't have a question from this week's topic, you can always ask from previous weeks. So as a reminder, from next week, we will be going to Django. We have pretty much covered all the basics for Python that you would need to understand before we write Django. So from next week, we'll be starting with Django. And I know some people have gone through the materials, the resources for Django, and some people have even finished the task for the forthcoming weeks, but just stay tuned and enjoy. So it seems that no one is asking a question. Um, so is there any concepts or any topic you would like me to explain again? Something you were unclear about when we were talking, when we were discussing the topics, something, anything. Can everyone hear me, please? Just to make sure. Okay, so what don't you, I don't know, you just show classes. So what exactly about classes don't you understand? Okay. Um, Good evening, Enny. Had indent issues with some of the code for week 3. You type in and it gives indent errors, even though it typed exactly as given in the task. What can I do to correct? Are you sure it is exactly the same way? If it's exactly the same way as it was when I wrote the code, then you shouldn't have errors. But if you are still having errors, just send me a screenshot of the error on Slack. But I would advise you to go over your code again, read through the exact line, because there is no error that will not tell you where exactly you are getting that error from. So go through your code again and see the line you are getting an indentation error from and cross-check with the video or my code. But if you are still having issues with it, you can always reach out to me on Slack. Just send me a DM on Slack and I'll go through it. The class variable behaviors, it's very confusing. Okay. I need to know what, because I feel I have covered like class variables over. So I need to know what exactly you don't understand about class variables. Like what exactly is confusing? Is it how, okay, so let me just go over it again. We have instance variables and we have class variables. So I'm coming, just give me a second. Okay, so I'm back. So we have instance variables and we have class variables. Instance variables are variables that is defined inside a method and they belong to the current objects or the current instance of that class. So they are not used by other instances. They are not used by other objects. Now, class variables are variables that are shared by all instances, all objects of a class. So you define they are within the class, but they are outside the methods of that class. Now, when you define a class variable, you can other instances of that class also have an access to that class variable. So like the exam, okay, I'm coming. Let me see if I can quickly share. Why is I okay? Give me. Are you refer? I don't understand what you mean by are you refer? I don't. It's not you. You type the message. So let me see if I can quickly share my screen and explain class variables again, just to go over it. I believe everyone can hear me and also see my screen. So this was what we were working on yesterday. This was our code. So the minimum price here is a class variable. Now, like I said earlier, class variables are defined outside any method, but they are still within the class itself. And they are used by all instances of that class. So if I create an object, by the way, this is a private um, attributes. We talked about private attributes yesterday. So if I create an object, so if I create an object called B, so let's call it B. Now, and I create another object called C of that bicycle class. Now, these two instances, B and C, they have access to this class variable, meaning they can both modify or access the values of this variable. So anytime I come here and set bid, call the set bid method, which increments the minimum price. So they both will be able to change the values. So let's just do this and let me print. Okay, let me do this. Which runner is now running this code? Oh, sorry. It takes no arguments. So when I call the cell method here, we see that this gives us 300. Okay, I'm not calling the set bid method yet. So b dot set speed 100, c dot set speed 400. Now, if you look at this code here, set the minimum price of this bicycle is supposed to be 300 because we have already stated it is a class variable in our class itself. Now, when I create two objects, B and C, now B, when I call the set bid method, so the set bid method is supposed to increment the price by the minimum price by the price we set as an argument. So we set 100 here. And when we add it, increment it, it gives us 400. Now, to show that B is not the only one that has an access to this class variable, C also calls the set bid method. Now, when C calls the set bid method, because B has already had access to that variable, the class variable, and B has already modified it, it changes. But C also has an access to that class variable, and C can also modify the class variable. So adding 400 to the 400 initially makes it 800. So the very idea is that both objects can have an access to a class variable. So class variable is not just limited to just one object or just one instance of a class. They can be accessed and probably modified by any object of that particular class. So if we keep creating objects of that class, we'll be able to um we will be able to get an access and modify the class variable. So I hope this is understood. You should probably rewatch like I think the Tuesday office hours, because I talked more about class and instance variables there. Okay, so someone said I don't understand the functions video. So please, I don't know how to explain anything if you don't give me exactly what you don't understand. What don't you understand about the functions video? So someone said I've been using Android phone but not convenient, and I want to use my laptop. Which ID? You can use Visual Studio Code, VS Code. When I was doing tasks on training system, normal Python style, I get an error. Why is that happening? Um, when you use the normal Python to type some code, I don't think I understand your statements. What do you mean by when you use the normal Python or when you use Jupyter Notebook? I don't think I understand this. So for this, you can send me a screenshot of like an example of what you did, and maybe I'll get a better idea of what you're saying on Slack. Why is it that when I click run, I don't see the output below at the terminal on my VS Code? Same thing I would say. Okay, so since I don't know exactly what your code is and how you're writing the code as to the reason you're not getting the output. But what I'll just say is probably because if you are maybe having a function, it's probably because you maybe you have a function and you're not printing anything, you're just returning. But I really can't say if I don't know exactly what you are doing and the code you are trying to run. Someone say you don't click on run, click on new terminal. No, I don't think that's what she's saying. I think that what she's saying is when she clicks on the play icon on VS Code, on like the code runner play icon, she does not see anything in her terminal, which is obviously supposed to show if she's actually printing something. But most likely because you are not printing anything on the terminal, and if you are, I don't know, just send me a DM with the screenshot so I would understand the issue. So is there any other question? Is define init an object operation? What do you mean by an object operation? So what init does basically is it initializes an object. Yeah, it's a constructor. Init is a constructor. So it's a method, it's a constructor, it initializes our objects. So before our object is created, it needs to be initialized, it needs to be instantiated from a class. So it needs just helps us initialize our objects and initialize our objects and create it for us. So that is what Enny does. So it's a constructor. So is there any other question? Can everyone still hear me? In the video you drop, I'm practicing along, but I'm not seeing the output you are getting. Do you have CodeRunner installed? If you have CodeRunner installed, are you try restarting your VS Code? Sometimes CodeRunner does this. You probably have noticed it from my office as I have to most times restart my VS Code. So sometimes CodeRunner does this thing where it really doesn't run your code. So if you have CodeRunner installed and you are trying to run your code, and you can just restart your Visual Studio Code. And if the issue still persists, because I don't think if you are following along the video, you will still be getting errors. And if you don't have CodeRunner, then you should go to the marketplace in Visual Studio Code or the extensions tab and search for CodeRunner. I just go through our first ever office hours, and you would see how I demonstrated how to download CodeRunner. So I believe there is no other question because the comment section seems dry. There is no other question. So I believe we would also be calling this a day. Okay, still no question. Okay, you restarted a lot. You know what? Because I don't know what exactly you are doing. So send me DM on Slack with the issue, and I should help you with it. Just send me a DM on Slack with what you're trying to do. So I believe there is no other question, and we can call this a day. Thank you all for joining. By the way, there should be a Python office hours by 7 with Femi. So if you have questions, probably before then or like after this class, and you want someone to help answer your question, you can still send those questions to him and he will definitely answer them. Okay. And also um if okay, so from next week we'll be starting with Django, like I mentioned. So before then, I believe everyone will have gotten access to the resources and would have watched it before our next office hours. So I would like everyone to watch it and come with your questions, especially if you are new to Django. Django might be a bit weird and probably complex if you have not written it before. So I would appreciate it if you can ask a lot of questions from next week, and I will try as much as possible to explain as best as I can. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Okay, my Slack is still my name, Enny. Okay, so have a lovely evening, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.